Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, it's great to meet you. I'm Stella, and today I'll show you how to make a bunch of wall decor for your miniature craft room, including the room itself. As always, there are free printable templates to help you make your own version, and you'll find all the info and the download link in the video. So now let's begin. We'll start with these floating shelves because they're super easy to make and a great way to get a feel for the process. To start, we'll simply have to cut this part of the template 4 times, and then we'll stack the layers in pairs. The resulting panels should be about 1mm thick. And as usual, I suggest using cardstock from old packaging for this, since we generally have plenty of it at home. Plus, it's very sturdy but so easy to cut. You can use a cutting machine if you have one, or just regular scissors and a craft knife. Next, we'll cut this part twice and we'll glue 2 layers together. We'll sandwich this part between the 2 panels we assembled earlier, and the resulting piece should measure roughly 3mm in thickness. Now, to make it look like it's made of wood, we'll use a combination of acrylic gesso and acrylic paint. We'll start with gesso first, applying it with a square brush with stiff bristles so that the brush strokes create this nice 3-dimensional wood grain texture. Then we'll mix some brown acrylic paint with quite a bit of water so that it gets very runny like this. We'll brush just a little bit of this diluted paint on the panel, and then we'll quickly remove some of it with either a clean brush, a piece of paper towel, or a sponge. This way we'll get all these little variations of color that make the finish look more realistic. Once the paint has dried, as always, I suggest placing the panel between 2 layers of parchment paper and then under something heavy like a big book for a few hours. This will flatten the cardstock, and the parchment paper will absorb any leftover moisture in the paint, preventing the panels from bending over time. Next up, we'll need a couple of eye pins, paper clips, or sewing pins. I personally prefer eye pins because they're made of a softer material that's easier to cut, but any of these will work just fine. We'll glue the pins into these holes in the panel like this. This will let us attach the shelf to the wall later on. Now, after making the shelf, I was a bit worried that the eye pins might be too soft to hold the weight once I added objects, so I did a quick test and placed a few different minis of increasing weight on it, and the eye pins seemed to hold up well. I even left the shelf there for 15 minutes and it didn't budge, so I'm feeling reasonably confident it'll work once it's on the wall. I guess we'll find out at the end of this video, so fingers crossed. And of course, we can repeat this process to make as many shelves as we like. I only made 2 because I'm lazy. Because that's exactly how many I needed. Now that the shelves are ready, we can move on to the next piece, a pegboard. First, we'll cut this part once or twice. The panel should be about 1mm thick, and I glued 2 layers of cardstock together and cut them at once to speed things up a bit, but you can totally cut them separately and glue them together later. Now, if you're using my free printable template, I suggest piercing all these holes with an awl. Otherwise, if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut, a Silhouette, or an M1 Ultra like mine, you can use my digital templates, which you can find in my shop, linked in the description. Next, we'll cut this part a few times and we'll stack all the layers until we have a piece that's about 3mm thick. We'll do the same for this part. And for this one, but this one we'll have to make 3 times. We'll attach all these little bars to the back of the pegboard this way. Then we'll cut the pegboard with a bit of acrylic gesso, and I know this might seem pointless if your cardstock's already white like mine, but it actually makes the board a lot sturdier and it'll help the varnish we'll use next to stick better. And I like this one because it's water-based and super easy to clean off your brushes, and I'll have it linked in the description along with all the other supplies I used for this project just in case, but as an alternative, you can also use clear nail polish. Just like we did for the shelves, we'll glue a couple of eye pins to the back of the pegboard this way. And now that the pegboard is ready, we can make a couple of basic accessories to go with it. We'll start with some simple hooks, and all we need to do is bend a piece of metal wire like this. And I recommend using round nose pliers, but if you don't have any, you can press the wire against the skewer to get that nice rounded shape. Next, we'll make a tiny little shelf. First, we'll cut this part twice and we'll glue 2 sides together. Then we'll cut this part twice and we'll attach one layer to each side of the previous one. The resulting panel should be around 2 mm thick. Finally, we'll cut this little strip twice. We'll glue two sides together and we'll attach the resulting piece to the front of the shelf. Just like we did for the big shelves, we'll cover this tiny one with acrylic gesso first. And then we'll use the diluted paint and clean brush method to get that wood grain effect. Next, we'll cut this part several times and we'll stack all the layers in two groups, each roughly 2 mm thick. We'll paint both pieces white. And finally, we'll glue them to the bottom of the little shelf this way. To attach the shelf to the pegboard, we'll need 3 flathead eye pins or any type of metal wire as long as you bend one of its ends like this. We'll cut the pins to about 1 cm. Then we'll simply slide the pins into the pegboard, one every 3 holes. And finally, we'll just slide the shelf onto the pins like this. Next up, a little dry erase planner. First, we'll cut this part a couple of times and we'll stack the layers together. Then we'll cut this part twice and we'll glue 2 pieces to the one we assembled earlier. We'll cover the opposite side with this part. And finally, we'll top it off with this little frame cut twice. The finished piece should be roughly 4 mm thick. We'll paint it with acrylic gesso first. And then with acrylic paint. And if you want, you can add a touch of clear nail polish for a glossy finish. Next, we'll print this part. We'll cover it with clear tape so that it's shiny. And then we'll glue it to the board. Next, let's make a tiny hanging pencil cup. First, we'll cut this part 2 or 3 times and we'll glue layers together. The final piece should be roughly 1 mm thick. Then we'll cut this part, and for this one, I suggest switching to a lightweight type of cardstock since it's thinner and easier to bend. We'll fold the sides along these lines. Then we'll brush a little bit of water on these smaller sides like this. This will make these sections softer and more malleable. Next, we'll press these sides with a dotting tool or the handle of a paintbrush to give them a rounded shape. Finally, we'll glue this part around the base we prepared earlier, using this one to connect the 2 ends. Next, we'll cut this part. We'll press it against a wet sponge to dampen it. And then we'll glue it around the first one this way. At this point, we can paint our little pencil holder with acrylics. And of course, we can make as many pencil holders in as many colors as we like. And now that we have all this wall decor, it's about time we make some walls, right? Now, my go-to method for making walls is using cardstock, corrugated cardboard, and wood dowels. And I've already covered this process in detail in this video, which you can find linked on the screen and in the description. But essentially, we want to cut the basic shape of our walls from lightweight cardstock, and since this time all the main furniture for this room was ready, I literally cut the walls to size. Then we'll build a structural grid with wood dowels, reinforce it with corrugated cardboard, and finish it off with acrylic gesso and acrylic paint for a plaster-like look. Now, I usually like to use magnets to snap the walls together, but while making this, I realized I didn't have enough on hand and I didn't want to wait for new ones, so I experimented a little. First, I cut a wood dowel into smaller sections and glued them between the walls like a sort of zipper, and that didn't work. I'm kind of embarrassed that I thought it would, honestly. So next, I made a little bracket from cardstock to link the walls together, and it actually worked. And I gotta say, I quite like this trick, maybe even more than using magnets, and that's saying a lot. And I know this video is all about walls, but while I was at it, I made the floor too. I built it pretty much the same way as the walls, except I left a small groove along the top and left sides so I could slide the walls into it. To make the floorboards, I designed a pattern on my laptop and printed it, and okay, I know this is kind of cheating, but it's so much quicker than actually cutting and placing all the wood planks by hand. I've also posted a bunch of these printable floors in my shop if you like them. Alright, now that the basic structure of our miniature craft room is in place, we can finally hang all our tiny decor. We'll just mark where the pins go, poke the holes, and slide everything in. And truth be told, I originally wanted to make everything magnetic, but turns out no magnet was strong enough, so this was my backup plan. And there's still a lot more decor and wall stuff I want to make, like an actual window so Barbie isn't freezing through that giant hole. But this video is already getting way too long and I don't want to bore you, so I'll save it for next time. As promised, here's the link to the free printable template, and if you'd like to add more pieces to your dollhouse craft room, you should totally check out this playlist next. And this is all for today, until next time, bye!